Welcome to the Texas Goat Radio Show. I'm your host, Notorious. And this is part 3 of the Benny, Wills, and Owen episode 1714, I do believe.
But, I tell this to people about comedy too. They don't get to own entertainment. Like, they don't get to own the idea of dialogue and, story. It's just like the improvs don't have, a monopoly on comedy. We get to do it wherever we want,
Yeah, exactly.
I'm actually looking forward to Owen's next hour. I hope it goes down. I do pray for the actual aspect of it going and actually happening. I do. I think that it will be. Chris Rock recently did something, and I say recently, over the last 6 months or whatever. He did the first live comedy special on Netflix, and it wasn't as good as what I was expecting, to be honest with you. But Owen is trying to break ground with the first hour that was not worked out in comedy clubs. And that sounds like a terrible idea. It does, because you need a live audience to gauge. And I'm just curious to see how it's going to work out, what kind of jokes he's going to do, if he'll fall back on the tried and true things that he's done. It might be a collaboration, or if it's not a collaboration, it might be a compilation of his greatest hits. I think that's a possibility, but I'm definitely looking, and I think his pride is going to play into it actually happening, because he has to. He's promised, there's people out there that think that he is not going to show up, but there's people, he has promised people that have paid over $10,000 to his things, and they got 33 tomatoes. And part of me kind of hopes that there's a professional pitcher. I was working at a place one time. It was in a kitchen of a larger establishment, and I was in the kitchen for I was in trouble, and so I had to work in the kitchen. I couldn't work on campus. And this guy came up and he said, "Hey, I got to throw these apples away. You want to come out back and throw them at this fence?" And my shoulder is broke. The last time that whenever it happened at the same place, the doctor, whenever he handed me the restrictions for my job, he said to me, "If you accept a piece of paper with your right hand, you're breaking what I'm telling you to do as far as your job restrictions." That's how broken my shoulder was. Anyway, this kid, I say he probably a couple years younger than me, but he said, "Hey, I got to throw these apples away. You want to come out back and throw them at this fence?" And I said, "Yeah." So we walk out back, and I was like, "No, you go first." My older wisdom, because I can't throw with my right hand the way I used to, right? My right arm. And I'm glad I did, because he launched it. It was a cannon, man. It was like watching a professional pitcher throw something. I said, "No, you got all of the apples. Dude, you got all of them. I'm just going to sit here and watch you throw them." And so part of me kind of hopes that those tomatoes sting a little bit. And I think they will. I mean, they cost $10,000. What's the breakdown? 33 tomatoes. What are those worth? $10,000 at least. And so 33. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
All right, do you
It's
guys?
funny though.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I was saying, it's funny that there's certain people within the truth movement will not forgive anyone for coming from Hollywood. No matter what I say about my roots and what I got away from, they're like, "Well, you can't be trusted. You're from Hollywood. You're an actor." It's like,
Who says that?
oh, I've been getting that.
That's what I was about to say. No, people who are truthers, quote unquote. They want truth. And so I don't see anybody saying that. I think that's something that Owen would say. But because Owen didn't say it, he's like, who said that?
That's since I started Joy Camp in 2012.
Well, those people all
At that
suck.
time, I was making all my money during doing commercials. So people would see me in a Joy Camp sketch, and they'd see me in a pizza commercial, and they'd be like, "Who is this guy?" But I'm like, "Hey, this is how I make money, and this is how I make money, so I don't have to have a job, so I have more time to do the Joy Camp stuff."
See, you're a lot nicer than me, though. You're a lot nicer than me. I go on attack when people do that. Like, if somebody says something like that to me, I'm like, "You were in the fucking military. You ever kill a baby?" Like, I'm just like, bang.
See, he's truthful with that because that's what he does. And I'm interested to see how he's going to spin this for a good thing, because that's not healthy. It's not. You shut up and you listen whenever someone's talking. But he just self-admittedly said, "No, I go on the attack." That's not good.
You know?
Yeah.
And you're much more, you know, everyone loves you, man. Like, you get along with everybody. I like that. I like that you're very, what's the word? Hospitable, even to crazy people. I'm not.
Did he just say hospitable? I'm not one to judge how words are said by far, but
Like,
I think he intentionally mispronounces words as like a litmus test. It's his wizardry. If you can tolerate the mispronunciation of a word for him, like what is he like? What does he say? Documentary. I've heard him recently say that, and the way he describes him mispronouncing that for a reason is straight up a litmus test. Litmus, Litmus, I think is how that's spelled. And it's pretty much if you'll tolerate this, I'm weeding out the bad apples. If this deflects you, then that's fine. That's how I would describe that.
and there's pluses and minuses to both. Like, I'm trying to be a...
Correct me in the comment section, obviously, if I'm wrong with that. But I think that's what that means.
You know, maybe I can learn from you about that and just be a little bit more like, we all have opinions, you know, but I just know that the best defense is a good offense. Like, I always just attack.
Yeah, I don't know where I get it from. I have always been a peacekeeper. That's just
You're definitely a peacekeeper.
Played. Yeah, I've been doing it since I was a kid, and it comes naturally. And when I created this communication program because I was reflecting on my life so far, and I was like, okay, how can I help? What am I good at? And as I was analyzing everything I've done, I was like, oh, everything I've done has always been about communication. It's always been about trying to communicating complicated ideas in a palatable way, and like making things that are controversial, less intimidating. So everything's always been about communication. And I've had to deal with so many people who didn't want to hear, alternative perspectives. I've had to learn how to communicate in a way that wasn't too...
That's good. All of that sounds good. You know, communication is key. There's a reason why that's a saying.
Aggressive, but also is able to, penetrate programming, as it were. So, yeah.
We're very similar in that. That's how good comedy is, exactly what you just described. It's like, it's how to get through the programming and how to make something very complicated simple and digestible. And if somebody's laughing, or music, I found, like, I can be a lot more... I used to do bits, like I did that bit when I was hosting the Art Director Awards about how women shouldn't vote to like Canon and D, and like Anne Hathaway was like dying laughing, like this ardent feminist, and the whole bit is about how women shouldn't vote. And it's like, you can...
I did a video over that. He said that she was gushing over him. Him telling that story in the video that I saw was quite amusing.
Get through programming if you have laughter and comedy. My father was a communications professor, so I do relate to you on that. It's about how do you communicate, like how do you avoid triggers. But sometimes what's that?
I learned the hard way because I was the crazy, there's a character on the Joy Camp channel called the Conspiracy Guy, and that was me mocking myself because I was so bad at it in my early 20s when I was...
That would be one of the ways that Owen could dig himself out of this hole is him doing a parody of himself and act like it's just been a bit. But he has to have some form of redeeming qualities about it. He has to be able to admit that he was wrong. He has to have some kind of fund that's not crowdfunded of himself saying, hey, if anybody has a problem with me, with what I've done over the last few years, I've got money for you. All you have to do is ask. Obviously, there's some kind of vetting process. Yes. But that would be hard because he has already said, if you send cash, then that's going to be difficult. No. One of my last videos, there's an envelope. It's got their name on it. It has their address on it. Nobody's going to send cash without a return address. And it's clearly written. He has obviously stolen money from people. Obviously. But he does it in such a way that he feels that he can just walk away from it. And that's one of the reasons for the Reddit that is out there.
First started to question things, as so many are, because you start seeing that there's deception and lies in the world, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to tell everybody. So I was really aggressive in my approach. And when I was finding myself in like these really intense arguments where I was getting really mad, and I realized that I was doing more damage to the situation. I was like, actually,
that's an important thing. With all of the topics that are discussed in a lot of these videos, it's really easy to be emotionally weighed down and be angry about it. Scripture says, be angry, sin not. So you can be angry, but it's how you deal with that anger. I've tried over the last 20 years, less than 20 years, but around 20 years, to deal with anger in a way that you can have a discussion with someone and still be angry, but a discussion. And that's a difficult spot to be in a personal relationship whenever the other person likes to have time. I like to have time, but I also like to be malleable. I take pride in the ability to adapt to situations. But being in any kind of relationship with someone who takes time whenever you think that things need to be discussed, that's a difficult place to be.
Making it so the person would never look into the topic I wanted them to look into. So that's when I had to reevaluate my whole approach. And comedy was the way, because like you said, when somebody's laughing, their defenses are down. And they're no longer afraid. They're no longer like ready to fight. They're just...
See, I don't agree with that, because laughter is somewhat of a defense. Just look at any essay video that you see in any corporate office. They tell you, don't laugh, because you're giving them power. And the reason why they say don't laugh is because a lot of people laugh in order to cope with the situation that's going on. And so I disagree with what he just said.
They're more receptive, and then I just really started leaning into that.
Yeah, and when you can make fun of yourself is huge, because like the truther guy, the self-righteousness of the truther guy who won't allow...
Is there any videos of Owen actually making fun of himself? Because that is a big aspect of comedy. That's a big aspect of my life. If there's a group of people, especially, and I don't mean 100% of the time, but especially alpha men working, we all have tough hands and all that kind of stuff, right? I will almost volunteer myself for the jokes. Like if I feel like they're picking on someone, I'll enter that conversation in a self-deprecative way in order for the attention to be on me. If I feel as though that person is new or can't take it or whatever, and you can say whatever you want to about that, but I would rather it be directed at me, because if it's funny, dude, that's awesome. But if it's not funny, then I kind of got you a little bit. You know, all you're doing is being an asshole, and we have a job to do, and so kind of work on your comedy a little bit. Like that's a conversation that I've had, I would say multiple times. You're just being mean. You think you're being funny, but you're not. Yes, the new guy to go grab, insert any hazing verbiage. And yeah, sure, I don't like that because that's just a waste of company time, company money, or whatever. But as far as wits back and forth, yeah. I would much rather you make fun of me than somebody that genuinely feels like you're picking on them. Because whenever you're quote unquote, picking on me, I feel like we are just two people sharpening swords, and I'm not the funniest person out there, but I can find humor where humor's lacking. So that's one of the reasons why me and my buddy get along, because that's kind of what he is and does. Anyways.
Anyone to have fun. Like, you could be like, what a beautiful day. It's like, oh, really? Tell that to the bromium and the aluminum falling from the sky. You know, it's like,
Exactly.
It's like, it really is super, super annoying. Or if somebody's like, yeah, you know, I'm having a baby. And it's like, oh, really? You're bringing another one into the world run by the Illuminati who eat babies and have fake money and start all the wars. And you're just like, dude, I don't like you. It's like, oh, scared of the truth. You're scared of the fucking truth. Oh, you can't hear the truth.
Scripture literally says, mourn people being born and celebrate whenever people are dying. That's what Scripture says. It does. If you don't think it says that, then read more. But that's the mentality of it. That's what Scripture says. I'm not the one that wrote it. Don't be mad at me.
It's like, no, you're ruining everyone's day. You know, and so there is a happy medium, because I won't cuck and accept someone's worldview because they want to feel good. And you were way ahead of me on some of this stuff. I mean, I was watching your sketches today. Like,
all right, so I was watching Chrissy Mayer. I don't know how to say that. I need somebody to do a video on how to say Mayre, possibly. I can't remember. Anyways, and Owen talks a lot about who he is, and he gives a whole lot of self-worth on he was the first person to do this and that, and that's where humility comes in. Reading Scripture, there's nothing new under the sun. There's nothing new, right? And so you're always building on something. And so for you to say, I created this, it originated with me, that's an insane thing to say, especially whenever you're, quote unquote, 147 IQ and learned, unlike these dirt floor folks. I don't know why. I just remembered, and I normally say it differently. I'm adopted. My two brothers are adopted. And we were adopted by older folks. And I'm not saying it detached for a reason. That's just what I said in that moment. And because those are my parents, right? Those are the people that raised me. That's mom and dad. And my mom, she's gone now. She's moved to the ether, or whatever you want to call it. She's gone. She's dead. And she, as a child, picked cotton. That's what she did as a child. And she worked every day of her life. She worked all the way up until retirement age, what she was told by the dream of the United States. She was half Indian. She was half, I think, Cherokee. She was 50% Indian. She was 50% white. And she picked cotton. And so it was being adopted. it was just like the whole racist thing never, it was just a weird thing because growing up, and then my dad was, what do they call it? He was drafted. So growing up in school, whenever they would give the school assembly thing, like, anybody that served in the military, stand up and we appreciate you. He never stood up. He never stood up. And one of the nights me and him were talking, I asked him, he was like, I was drafted, man. Like, I did what I did. I served my time, but I was drafted. Like, I don't appreciate it, but I did what I had to do. And so, like, it's so much of this virtue signaling thing and hating the white dude. I'm a white guy. I've never taken a DNA test to prove anything else. My twin brother has, and he didn't even share the results with me. He didn't even think it was a gift to him. And so, like, 6 months after he took it, it came up in a conversation. I didn't ask for the results, and he didn't give them. And to me, I'm like, I would. if I knew our heritage, I would tell you. But he's like an academic person, and it didn't, I don't know. It was weird. These are weird videos. That's for sure.
The one I'm about to show of Conspiracy Guy is 7 years old, and it might as well be like right now. And that's why that's really impressive that your old sketches hold up so well. It wasn't like, they weren't just like a fad. Like the flat earth thing,
Is there, if y'all can give me more information about this Wills guy, I'd appreciate it. He seems familiar. I think once I see him in some of those sketches, it might come back. Shane Gillis is a great sketch comic. He is amazing with his sketch comedy. And he's also somebody that is big that could probably whoop this dude's ass, Owen. And that's one of the reasons why, no matter all of the crap that he talks about comedians these days, like the people that are actually doing it, I've never heard him say one ill word towards Shane Gillis. It's because I think that Shane is big enough, because he was a football player. He's way more modest than our boy Owen.
No, you were way ahead on that. And so this sketch, do you want me to play the sketch or do you?
Yes, I do. And what's cool about this sketch in particular, like because I have a bunch of those conspiracy guys, but I sent that one because I am so like, there's always a.
All right, I'm going to end it because he said like, and I'm trying to get away from like, and that's a difficult thing to do. Anyways. This is the Texas Goat Radio Show. I am your host, Matorius. As always, till next time.